Welcome to an episode of Entrepreneur Marketing Mastermind. This is Bert Molnar and Nina Hirschberger, and we have a special guest today, our $6 million woman, Becky Auer. So Becky has an incredible story that we're going to share with you. And a lot of what we talk about here is, how can you take ideas outside of your own industry and then apply it to make your business stand out and be head and shoulders above all your competition and do things a little more in a memorable way. No, let me just introduce you, Becky, and tell us a little bit about you. And we're going to talk about your restaurant experience. Although I think if I recall correctly from your story, you really didn't have any experience coming into the restaurant business in the food industry. And your partnership was to just manage the marketing. And oh, what a difference you made. So,
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right.
okay, great.
I had started two other businesses and they all dealt with the public. It was construction and firewater restoration. I did all the marketing for those two. Marketing's my passion. The long story short is I made friends with the guy up the street who had a hibachi restaurant, which I love, and took my kids there. And we ended up bartering with him to do his cleaning and or carpet cleaning and painting, and he would give us free food. And so it was just a match made in heaven. And then from there were four owners, and the one owner pulled me aside and said, "Look, I want to open another restaurant. I know you're good with marketing. Would you be interested?" And I said yes, because by then I was so tired of dealing with the public. And, if their house burnt down or got water damage, they wanted the Taj Mahal when their insurance check was, a pittance of what they wanted. So it was a long, involved story. And I was just ready for a change. Fast forward, about 3 years, we got the money together. We found a location. I said, the only way I want to do this, though, is if you just let me go crazy on the marketing and you don't question me. And I won't question you because you know how to run the managers and the employees. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And he said, great. And so that's how it all started. And we took it from a zero start to $6.5 million in just over a year. And we kept it there for 7 years. And the moral of the story is we gained unique visitors of 63,000 individual emails that we could reach out to at any given time to ask them to come in for our next promotion or what have you. And I ran 6 to 14 promotions in any given month just to keep people coming back and keep it exciting and an experiment or an experience.
So let's kind of rewind it back there because, Becky hit on a huge thing there in a restaurant. And she had the email contacts. She knew how to communicate with her tribe and talk to them and keep them up to date and tell them about things that were coming up, whether it's, a holiday special or a special date night or a, menu change or, on and on. We'll get some ideas from her. But you should be doing that in your business set. If you're not capturing your contacts, like, how many times do we walk into a business, even a real estate open house, and they never capture your contact information? Well, you're never going to make a sale the first chat or first communication in most businesses. So you've got to have a way to follow up with them 8 to 12 more times that it takes to get your first sale. And so you did a phenomenal job with, capturing their information and lots of different ways to do that. And so when you approached the restaurant business, like what was your processing or thinking of, how do we, you're unknown in the restaurant business. You're probably getting a new building that maybe not have been a restaurant before. How do you get recognized? How do you get people to come visit you? Because isn't that something like, almost all restaurants fail in the first 2 years? And it's a pretty big number.
Yeah. And the other thing was we had no parking.
Oh,
So the first thing that we had to do was get valet secured before we even kind of bought the building.
okay.
Because we knew the location that we wanted to be, but it was just on-street parking. There was no parking lot. There was no nothing. And so we had to get that figured out first, which we did. And then we kind of rewarded the people to use valet, a little gift that we would put in the car for them at the end of the meal. And so since we were a hibachi restaurant where we had smokeless hibachi tables, which took a minute to get approved, we could seat 10 at a table. And we had a 45-seat bar area, cocktail bar area, and we had a 12-seat sushi bar area. And from when we opened up, we did a big grand opening, and people in, and they watched the development, right? So everybody was excited. You get that grace period, if you will, of 2 or 3 months. And if you don't have your act together in those first couple months, they're not going to come back. But if they get there and they have a great time and you collect that information, then they will come back. And even if you just say, look, we screwed up everything totally, give us a second chance. But a lot of the business owners, they just won't kind of even admit it, that they messed up. I mean, they're just regular people. So we were quick to say, look, this probably didn't go as you expected, come back on us. And then we did a great happy hour, and we got the cute girls in there, which brought the cute guys in there. And it was kind of a match made in heaven. But when we first started, I knew just from all my following with Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer and, the greats, right, that we didn't want to do a hibachi restaurant like a Benihana. We wanted it to be sexy and hip and trendy. And that's what we did. We played music that I don't like, but, the 21 to 30-year-olds love. So we kind of made it their bar and their restaurant, and they kind of dictated what we played. I would have never played what we played. So in the beginning, happy hour, people could come in for hibachi, and then around 9 or 9:30 at night, the switch flipped and it turned almost into a nightclub atmosphere because we had such a big bar and all these cute girls and great food. And it worked like a charm because we could communicate with them. So for your listeners that are, listening in or watching, this was a little bit before social media. Social media was there, but it wasn't what it is today. So I will tell you right now, as it sits, social media is free. It probably won't be that way, in my opinion, for a long time. So whatever you can do on social media, I would say go and do it. Put yourself out there if you want to get your business known or if you want to get yourself known, because I don't think it's going to be free forever, but you do have a moment in time right now where you can do that. And there's many different ways. I'm sure you'll go over, Bert and Nina, that you can capture those people's information on social media. So we didn't really do that. Everything that we did was kind of done in the emotional direct response, which is where Nina and I came up from, collecting that information. So we actually paid our servers $1 each to get them to sign people up to our loyalty program. Even though we paid them a great salary and they got great tips, we gave them an additional $1 for every person that they signed up. And people wanted to sign up too because it was kind of a really cool place. But we paid them. So you got to inspect what you expect. And, that was one thing that I knew that we had to do was grow our list. And so we had our own in-house email list.
Like you made a great point about capturing the information and paying an incentive. And boy, so many businesses miss out on an incentive for their employees, or to be able to even measure how well they're doing, or to have contests and those kind of things. And, we humans, we're kind of competitive, and, we like to be good at things, like to be the best, like to be told we're doing a good job. And so it's just fantastic that you have something that you can measure in the business and give a reward or give an extra or a bonus, or, reward, good behavior, good support of your business. And so that's another writer downer that so many businesses just miss out on. And I've certainly used that in my business in the past, and it's been a game changer. And then, the other thing you mentioned, the social media. So like back in the day when it was just kind of new and fresh, like Facebook, when you made a post, you could actually reach everybody in your audience. And now you're only reaching a portion of them. So you've got to do the boosts and the ads and those things. And so that's constantly changing. But definitely take advantage of what you have available, and anything that's free, works fantastic. So you signed them up for a loyalty reward. So you had a way to kind of build raving fans, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so you built, you made sure that your clientele were part of the business, or that they knew your story and that. So kind of tell us more about that. Like what's the downfall of typical restaurants, and why do they fail? Why do they fail to make connection? Can't tell you how many times I've gone to a restaurant and something didn't go very well, and informed the server, and like never get a visit from a manager, or, I'll move my drink, out to the edge of the table to let them know I'm ready for a refill. And, 20 people walk by or stare at you, never refill. And it's like, gosh, that's disappointing. So,
Yeah, for sure. Look, how I considered it was the entertainment business. You know, if you can give them something to talk about at the water cooler the next day, you're doing a really good job. Because people, you know, look, we got hit with COVID. Nobody could go out, right? And so all anybody wanted to do was be together again. So pre-COVID, I don't know. We just had that figured out. I knew that that's what they wanted. So when they came to our place, there was a huge waiting list. Even though we took reservations, we got a ton of walk-ins. So I did a bunch of things while people waited in the bar. Like I had a magician that came in on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights and would go around to all the high top tables and do tricks. And one of the things that I had him do was one of his specialties was he would take a deck of cards and he would have you write your name on it. And then he would flip it up and that card with your name on it would jump out and stick on the ceiling. So, and the ceilings were high, like, like he had to really slam it up there to get this card up. I don't know how he did it to this day. You could see the people that would come in then with their friends afterwards and they would point up and say, look, I was here before. There's my card. So that was just like one cool thing that we did to kill the time, right? We're not angry that we weren't seating them, or again, we didn't really want people to stay for dessert because we wanted to rush them out because we couldn't move the tables or anything. So if we had to do that and they got back out to their car with the valet, we put a little sleeve of caramel corn in there with a $5 bounce back coupon to come back in and see us, because we knew that they were probably not very happy that we asked them to get a move on. Because there was another table, even though they understood, like they're paying really good money to be there and to be in the excitement and things like that. So, and I tracked every promotion that we did, and I only got, out of 7 years of owning the place, 2 of those bounce back coupons back, 2 of them. It was incredible. Because it was $5. I mean, $5 is $5. At least pay some of your sales tax, but all of our other promotions primarily killed it, just because we gave, discounts. And if they were in there and we knew they were in there before because they signed up for the loyalty program, they would get invited to special events and things like that. And I just tried to make it fun, something that I would want to go to, because again, you just want to give them that experience. One of the things that we did that was a great promotion was around Valentine's Day. And we had in the bar, our bar was huge and you could all sit around and see each other. And it sat 45. And then there was standing room. We had 2 wedding proposals there, which is very cool. But on Valentine's Day, like if you don't have a Valentine, like, no, I want to be with the cool kids. So I did a whole promotion. I sent out a hard copy newsletter. I actually pulled this up because it's been a minute. But so in my newsletter, I said, hey, are you looking for attention? Are you single and don't want to be? Are you lonely, especially around Valentine's Day? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you need Nakama's help. Let's have some fun and play matchmaker. Here's how. Come in, you purchase a light up ice cube on Thursday, February 7th, February 8th, or February 9th. And buy a cocktail. So they had to buy a drink to get the cube. Okay. And if it was a beer, that was okay, but they needed to still buy the cube to participate. Yeah. And they would put the color in their drink as to what they were. So red meant you were available. Okay. Green meant you were in a relationship. Blue was it's complicated. And multi was what happens at Nakama stays at Nakama. And just from that one promotion alone, oh my gosh, we got so many, people writing into the newsletter, back to the newsletter, like back to me, because I'm like answering all the questions about how fun it was. And they actually did find a match and, things like that. So I think if you just kind of, now with ChatGPT and, all these LLMs out there, you can really just go and say, create some fun, unique promotions for me for the upcoming month of February or March or whatever month that is. And it was just so cool because we had to light up ice cubes. I got them primarily for the kids. I thought the kids would like them. But it ended up being a thing in the bar for all the adults too. And then when I ran that, like you would see every week after that, the people that were there for that, they had like red if they, wanted to be in a relationship or were in a relationship and things like that. Nakama is the name
Oh,
of,
yeah.
of the restaurant.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
and so we were just playing matchmaker.
Yeah, perfect.
And they could come in and participate or not. But I would say 95% of the people participated because again, back then there weren't 100, Tinder and Bumble and all these apps I don't know about, thank God, but there might have been Match, .com or Christian Mingle or something, but there was just no other way to kind of meet people back then. And so the Light Up Ice Cube was just a perfect way to get people talking to each other, if nothing else. There was a ton of laughs that weekend around Valentine's Day.
And there's a huge need for that today because the old way of meeting people was going out and, dancing or going, to see people or meet them at church or social things. And now it's almost 100% online and impersonal. So I think there's a huge hunger for something like that, just a reason to gather and mingle. And, you made a Valentine's Day for if you don't have a Valentine's, and that's the other, 43%. And you also made it, like Valentine's Day, the holiday, it's the fourth, highest spending holiday of the year. And, you took that and, that takes care of itself if you do a promotion, but you use that same momentum and
Right.
did it, the week earlier and got people fired up and hey, maybe they did have a date for Valentine's by
Right.
the time it
Right.
came
That was
around.
the hope, right?
Yeah, fantastic. Nina, did you want to pitch in some ideas there?
So I was starting to say, so the thing about Becky and I have been friends for years and years and years. And I think the genius of Becky has always been the consistency over time. And when she said, well, how many promotions a month, Becky, did you say?
Yes, 6 to 14 promotions in any given month.
Per month, month after month after month. Now, you did talk about your printed newsletter. How many of those printed newsletter how many months did you do that?
It was the bane of my existence, and they don't look very pretty. They were just black and white, but I did them for 72 months in a row.
72 months. Nobody even does any anymore, let alone 72 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, nobody gets any good mail in the mailbox anymore. It's only
no,
bill.
not at all.
When we do get something, it's a game changer these days. So
Yeah. In fact, just today, I interviewed a heating and air conditioning company because I'm writing an article for a magazine for them. And I couldn't do anything, but I was trying to say, okay, what makes you unique? What makes you different? Well, we have good technicians. We have been in business a long time. I mean,
lower
that's
prices.
really everything. I mean, Becky's, talking about an experience. She could have said, we have good food, whatever. But no, she was in the experience business. And my heating and air conditioning, they could be in the the experience business too, but they don't know that they could be.
Yep. And by the newsletter, they knew her story, or they knew the restaurant story. And so many business owners today are so busy just running the business that they don't get any of the relationship. They don't get any of the raving fans. They don't get any of the, the marketing and promotion side. And that's where your profits come from. All the rest just, covers expenses.
Well, and I think that's what they were so smart is they divided. She didn't run the operations, she ran the marketing. So she could focus on the marketing. She didn't have to, be doing the performance reviews and, checking food or whatever. She
Right.
could just do the marketing.
Well, and the other cue that, Becky, you chimed in on was, about the senses. So, we have 6 senses. And interestingly enough, sound is one of those top senses where, the music you played isn't the music you liked, but it was upbeat and it was fun and it got people in a different mood. So if you can change the mood and make it an atmosphere, visual is one of the top things, but smell is another one. And by having the hibachi and the sizzle and all the sounds and having a separate bar, very much taking any old plain business and figuring out how do you bring in the different senses, the smells, the sights, the sounds. How do you bring in today, because there is the Instagrammable moments and that, having little nooks and corners that are decorated or, fun sayings, like if it's a hibachi grill, maybe something like I was Shanghaied, with a neon sign above and let them take their photos or, have a few different areas that have, Instagrammable moments. Becky, today I would guess that probably one of the big problems would be getting food to people, and then by the time they eat it, it's cold because they're so busy doing the Instagram and taking pictures, or on their phones or texting everybody. What would you do different as a restaurant owner?
I don't think I would do too much different. I mean, it was $0 to $6.5 million and a little under 5,000 square feet. So we jammed.
With
And
no
apart-
prior restaurant experience.
Right, right. With no prior restaurant experience. Only my guy who had opened a restaurant. But that was part of the caveat, is you can't limit me and I won't limit you, and let's just have at it. So, but I don't know, I guess for people out there listening, to have your list, to communicate often, to add value, to keep top of mind. I mean, we did thank you emails, thank you cards, we had comment cards, we had contests in the newsletters. I sent out direct mail pieces. I sent out thank you gifts for our top 50 spenders. Every Christmas, had nothing to do with the restaurant, with a handwritten thank you note. I'll never forget that one guy wrote us a note and said, never in my life and I'm 56 years old, have I received a gift from a restaurant, let alone most of them don't even know my name or take my information, let alone know how many times I visited and how much I spent, and then took the time to send me a gift and a handwritten thank you note. Like, it meant something to him. He said, I literally have framed your note and put it on the wall.
Huh.
I mean, talk about a raving fan. It can't get any better than that. So again, the hard copy newsletter, it wasn't all about the restaurant either. It was weird little, did you know, and trivia, and just weird little things that they could read. Yes, we had some restaurant promotions, but I would say that was about 10%. And the rest was just like weird little facts that people could read while sitting at the bar at a table, and kind of like use for bar trivia and things like that. We did birthday cards. We did a voice broadcast on their birthday month. We did a no peeking promotion at Christmas time. And we did about 30 more different things. So when you are sitting down thinking about what could those top of mind touches be, think a little bit outside the box and think about, okay, that worked in a restaurant. Well, they're coming in, maybe twice a month. How could I work that in my heating and cooling business? Well, you could still do any kind of like no peeking promotion where you give them a red envelope at Christmas time and you give, discounts on 3 of the services, or you give a value add. If you open it up, you scan the QR code, you can get 10% off your next filter cleaning or whatever it is that they do. You just have to make it different and fun. I'm working with a few clients now. One of them's a roofer. Like, I'm literally begging him to have a short lead gen book created along with a shock and awe pack where, a piece of shingles in there and a story about his company. Like Nina said, we had a list of differences in our newsletter, that here's why we're different from every other restaurant, that he could use in his business, because he does offsite training and he has like a dumpster that has an attached porta-john. Well, that meant something to me. He didn't have to come in my house and use the restroom. Like, it's those little things that nobody's talking about in their business that I would be shouting from the rooftops if I were them.
One thing I would get a lot of feedback when I was in the construction business is I would point out things in our construction, like where we would put metal plates over where pipes went through the studs or electrical lines, and people would be like so amazed. Oh, I hate it when you try and hang a picture and we don't know if we're going to hit a wire or a pipe. Now, that was required in our code, but they didn't know that. And they, just assumed all the other builders left it out of their thing. So you can even talk about just the common things too, or you can also do the opposites. So with your HVAC guy, you might want to send hand warmers and say, we're the coolest HVAC company in the whole valley, and you might get too cold, so here's some hand warmers once we do your work. And so again,
we're coming out to see you, but have these ready. Absolutely. People people are so bored. They are so bored with their lives and the family sometimes, and they just want something to talk about. So if you can do that one thing to give them something to talk about, even if it's just for an hour, while they have dinner, or oh my gosh, you should have seen what I got ahead of my estimate with this heating and cooling company. They'll tell everybody. They just don't understand this. I don't know why people don't understand that. You like it yourself. Anybody out there listening, you like to talk about something to other people and kind of brag about, oh, this happened to me. I mean, just think if you did that for your company.
Yeah. And Nina, we should do an episode in the future about what Becky talked about, how she found her biggest spenders and really of them. So the Pareto rule. So, we've all used that in our business on the podcast here. So we know how to use that and how to make the real spenders bring, we want to duplicate the very best clientele and the very best customers and the highest spenders. So, that's the way to do it, is to, spoil the ones you already have and make them feel special. And because they already have a connection with your business, they like it. They're spending a lot of money. They enjoy it. They're bringing their friends. They're showing you off. They like the personal treatment because by now, that business knows you. And so you like going there. Manufacturer, and it was, a high-end company. And in the lobby, he said, "Welcome, Bert Molnar." Because I was scheduled in there to have a meeting with the CEO that day. And it's like, wow, that's a classy touch. And so the personalization, the figuring out who in your business is the most profitable, not necessarily spends the most or this and that, but who makes you the most profits, who's the least amount of headaches, and the people you enjoy and who celebrate your business and like to show you off. So definitely,
it could be the person who refers the most too.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Person who refers. And the other thing that, because you're right, and I recognized that early on, like we had a couple, people that would come in and spend company money. So they didn't care, right? They bought drinks for everybody. Everyone loved them. And they weren't, getting any company business from it. But then we had the people that lived on the South Side that could walk there, and they were in every single day. So when I sent those gifts out, I did it one of two ways. It was either who spent the most, but also who visited the most, even if they didn't spend the most, because I knew those were the walkers, those were the younger kids that didn't have, corporate dollars to spend, but they were loyal to us. And so I sent the first 50, the gifts out. And then I sent the next 200 a smaller gift. I sent out 250 gifts every year. And the smaller gifts went to the people that were the walkers. But you don't want to miss them because they were your biggest cheerleaders, right? So you had to give them something because you just knew them. You saw them there every day, even if they just spent 15 versus 500 like Mr. Corporate did.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. I used to always do that same thing. I would have another kind of point factor that I would add in for, if they sent a lot of referrals or if they were just easy to work with and were always talking about us or just really appreciated the business. And, so like I say, I'd kind of give them a little boost or, like you say, get them in the next category. So make sure they get something from us. And then you sent out a lot of personalized, like, handwritten notes and, the newsletters and told all those things.
And we made some of those people that we sent the gifts to, we in the second year created a VIP ambassador program where I would give them little business cards with their name on it as Nakama VIP ambassadors, and they were allowed to, and on the back of them it was a free appetizer from that person. Okay. So I let them have 20 a month that they could give out 20 free appetizers to, it didn't matter, friends, business owners. We didn't put any restriction on it. And that got us so many people because they were excited. They were like, because it was cool to be associated with us at that point, right? And so they're like, hey, they picked me to be a VIP brand ambassador, go in on me and have a free appetizer. And it just worked like so good. They loved it and we loved it because we were excited. We're like, oh, you're friends with June, we just saw her the other day, and you just get to know them.
And I'm going to guess that your turnover at the restaurant was much lower than typical.
much lower than
Yeah, yeah.
typical.
So the, friends that are watching, the staff training, I mean, you've got to train your folks how, they're the face of your business. You can't be in there every day, doing everything the way you would do. And so that's why standard operating procedures and methodology and telling your stories that they can convey on to the guests and giving them tools that you empower them to make decisions and fix problems and solve issues right then and there. And hey, if they do it wrong, pull them aside in private, say, okay, next time, here's what you could have, should have, would have done. But just be glad that they're actually addressing the issue and not letting it fester, or not just when somebody says, hey, I had a problem, that they just blow them off and let them go. So, the
Yeah.
customer retention
It's it's
is
such a good and true point, Bert. And honestly, we didn't even do that good a job like training our servers. We got really good servers because they made a lot of money. But we could have done better there. But like, I didn't want to take it on because I was busy doing all the marketing stuff. But if I would say that was an area we could have improved, just think. I mean,
Yeah.
we probably left money on the table because they weren't totally trained on that as well as they could have been. So it's just those small incremental changes by 1% here, 1% there, over here, that just can skyrocket a business pretty quickly when, as the business owner, if you just get yourself out the way sometimes and say, okay, what can I do different? Or, what can a consultant or a coach or somebody else that is not as close to the business but can see the bigger picture. Like my roofer, I'm begging him, but like I'm not going to do it for him. You don't want to do
right.
it, don't do it. But I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
they've got to
I
buy in.
know it will make a difference.
So, Nina, what's your favorite saying about small changes?
W. Clement Stone, small hinges move big doors.
Yeah. So the small and the incremental. So friends, make sure that you walk away from, today's meeting and have written down like just one good idea of what you're going to do different in your business. And we're kind of in the beginning of the year here. We're talking about Valentine's Day and holidays coming up and trying to, plan ahead for that and be ready for it. But there's also, we just had a new election. So there's changes, business is going to be done differently going forward. Becky talked about when she started that social media was just beginning, and so today you would do things differently, or social media you could reach everybody on your list at one time. Now it's restricted to small groups, and they want you to pay to reach bigger groups, or boost posts or buy ads and those things. So we'll continue to talk about giving you fresh ideas, like in the restaurant. Becky could have put a passport for all the different regions of the country, or maybe all the different types of food, like when you try the shrimp version, or you try the steak version, or you try the this and that, and just give them, giving customers a reason to come back and want to visit you and spend more money.
And then on the back, I had them answer separately. I had them answer 20 questions: what they loved about Pittsburgh, what they loved about the South Side, their favorite cars, their favorite TV shows. And some of them were darn funny. And so on the back of the trading card, I listed like, get to know Luke. And, then 5 things about Luke that you might not ever know, that you could start a conversation. Because if you're an introvert, right, hibachi's a little hard. But if you had that card and you're sitting with other people, and now Luke comes out and like he is this, kick-ass chef, if you will, and excited to be there for you because, he got trained. And now you can say, oh, Luke, I see you're into classic cars. And that just starts the conversation and gives them something to talk about. So same thing, if you can make a connection somehow early on, like literally, again, talking to my roofer, I had just dropped that I own Nakama, and he's from Pittsburgh. And he goes, wait a minute, you started and owned Nakama? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't know I was in the presence of royalty. Like, he was so impressed by that one statistic. But when your people, like when our chefs did that and there was some connection there, it's an instant hit. Like you're pretty much in. Like they're not going to get an estimate from somebody else as long as it's in their range. So I would say do something cool like that. You make your employees feel amazing, right? Because you're taking the time to get to know a little bit about them. And then you give them something to talk to these people about as a sales professional. You weave in a couple questions about heating and air or roofing or whatever that is. But again, if you can find that place where you connect, then it's an easy sale, in my opinion.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I did that in my financial business. I put a little divider behind me and I had photos. And so I, purposely picked photos of different interests that I had, from, travel to kids to outdoors and conservation to riding horses. And people come, oh, you like horses? And it's like, yeah, my daughter's into horses. We're taking her training. So you give them an excuse that they find common ground to like. And when they walk away, it's like, wow, I really like that person because, they're like me, they get me, or they enjoy the same things. And so whether it's visual pictures or whether it's the trading cards, is a genius idea, especially when you make it quirky and fun and unique. And evening thing, and we talked about, what did you do as a young kid that your parents still don't know? And this one girl talked about, oh, my brother and I were horsing around and we're running around the room, and I ran behind the dining table so he couldn't catch me, and I tripped over the phone wire and it ripped out of the wall and all the drywall came apart. So right then my parents pulled in, and so we told our parents we got broken into, and we turned the tables over. We never have told them, so they called the police, did an investigation. But everyone remembers that. And so again, those funny, quirky things are just hilarious. So find a way in your business to help get that personality out and give your customers, your clients, a way to connect with you and remember you and be memorable and be fun, that they want to come back because you allowed them to get to know you. So we will see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll have some more marketing tips. So be sure and sign on, like us below and link on so we can give you a heads up of our next Entrepreneur Marketing Mastermind. Cheers.